Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Administrative Executive Committee meeting, Wednesday, what? This one says May 3rd. Here we go. Monday, April 10th. No. Well, anyway, I guess I'll look at it's April 5th. Yeah. We got our stuff together. It is almost 3 o'clock. It's 1 minute after 3 now. It's okay. No.
Oh, so this is the agenda.
It's just a hiccup. It's okay. Well, Chris, why don't you pass through one of the many callers that are online with questions?
So let's see, we are back up to one viewer. Maybe you can coax someone into calling in.
Does the one viewer have a question while we're waiting to get our paperwork straightened out here? Call in. We'd love to hear from you. This is what happened when we have all these Easter vacationers.
That's right.
Oh, spring vacationers. We have a call in. Caller? Okay.
Actually, it looks almost identical.
Yes. Okay, caller,
Hello.
please identify
Yeah.
yourself, and do you have a question or a comment?
Well, I just kind of, yeah, this is Renee Westelusk. I on the agenda, you're going to discuss that SB 606, Assembly Bill 1668.
Yes.
Are they going to expand, when you give the report, the ramifications for our valley, what that means? Because I'm still kind of confused.
Well, and so are
About
we.
it.
Our general manager has been staying in touch with Aqua, and they've been engaging on many of the water districts in California's behalf to try to get clarity on this. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of implied enforcement required of the water districts. We don't have an outdoor water standard yet. We have indoor water goals that have been set up for us. There's 3 of them. We ultimately get down to 42 gallons per person per day. But yeah, we're trying to stay on top of it, Renee, but it's probably premature for us to give any definite impacts on the valley. Don, do you want to add? Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to that agenda item. Is that all right, Renee?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thanks for calling in.
Okay.
Okay, well, I didn't call to order, but we will call to order post haste. Do we have any committee comments? Okay, we'll move on to, why don't we move on to Senate Bill 606 and Assembly Bill 1668, Don?
Okay, as you're aware, the State Board did release their draft for moving California forward with conservation. As you mentioned, Association of California Water Agencies has been very active in providing commentary. In fact, I did advise the board that they've established a coalition of California water agencies. I can't remember the number offhand, but it's several that signed on to a letter that was sent to the state board with several concerns, a lot of them centering around methodologies that were used and are going to be used. In addition to that coalition letter, I did send an email to the board specifically about the methodology that they are proposing for the evaporative cooler variants, with several concerns about how that's being presented. And I think we talked about it before, but basically some of the requirements are that the water district establish a database for every individual customer that includes a photograph of their unit, the specifications of that unit. It gets down to, they want hourly temperature readings how many hours that each individual cooler is used. And of course, that's going to be very variable depending on the weather. Some seasons we've had coolers start up in March. It's been warm enough. And sometimes if it stays cool, it might be May. So to try and drill down and get all that information, I just don't see how it's going to happen, especially agencies like ours with our location and the resources we have to do something like that. And I also raised the concern, if you're relying on your customers to give that information, there are people that probably aren't going to be very willing to go to the extent and give you that information. So you're going to be set up to fail because you'll be short on the number of coolers you're reporting. And there's just a lot of problems with the way they're proposing to do this. Haven't got a response. Of course, I don't think they're required to give a response quite yet, but I think they're still gathering comments from water agencies, and guess we'll see how this all rolls out. It's supposed to take effect January of 2024, so it's not too far away, actually.
So, and ACWA is actively engaged on the swamp cooler issue as well as these other?
On all the variances, all the issues. Again, there's several issues with methodologies that were used for the outdoor landscaping and for the variances. I gave the example before about livestock where they're asking for the weight and the size of your cows or your pigs or whatever. And of course, that's going to be variable depending on how much you feed them. Mm-hmm. So, it seems to me it's easy to theorize and come up with something in theory, but when you go to apply that practically, there's a disconnect there, I think.
Well, as long as the issues that are important to the customers or the citizens of the valley have been presented to Aqua for resolution or at least engagement with, I'm not sure there's a whole lot we can do, right? I mean,
No, you're in the hands of, it's just like everything else that happens at that level. It's someone who's probably writing these things, never had a swamp cooler, has no idea how to run one, how they run, what goes on with it, has no idea. It happens in politics and the legislature all the time. You have people making scientific decisions who never did anything about it. So you're right, we have to sit back and wait and see what they do and hope for the best. And then, and I guess on this issue as well, I do want to remind, I know we discussed this in open session about the group that's meeting to put together how all these things are going to affect the water district in the future. So we can grab everything together, anything from GA to this, and what's it going to look like for the water district in the next 10 years. And hopefully we get enough information here that discussion can continue.
With regard to the comment I provided on the evaporative cooler, I did say I don't like to make an issue without suggesting something better, but I don't really have anything better, but I did suggest that they re-engage with Aqua and perhaps get a specific working group to work with the state to come up with something that's a little more practical.
like an average water use of a swamp cooler being applied to,
Yeah, the number of coolers you have, I think.
That makes too much sense.
Yeah, but to go to that level of actually documenting with photographs and taking specifications off each cooler and how many hours it's run.
And the temperature, I'm sure they want to know the dew point and everything else. And there are people who run their units round the clock at a certain time, just let it run all the time.
Yeah, when I had swamp coolers,
Yeah.
I did, they were just.
Yep. And then you're going to have to take into account, do they have the system on it that dumps the water occasionally so you don't follow the pads? I mean, I guess you're going to get some kind of a Indian Wells Valley Water District enforcement team together.
We spent some time, the water district spent some time a few years back trying to figure out what a standard or what an average swamp cooler used, right?
We did, and I provided that information in the email from the studies. Some of them were, I think there were two of them that were conducted in Arizona, which is similar. So the study presented average use, average number of days, things like that. So I did send all that data along with the email for them to consider. But again, I don't have a specific suggestion for how to do this, but there's got to be an easier way to achieve what they're trying to accomplish with that variance.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, I guess we wait and then, or continue providing information to Aqua that might be helpful if we have any further insights on water use for those systems. And
Don, you said we're supposed to get the results of all this before the end of the year, so it takes effect January 1st? Is that what you said?
Well, yeah, that's,
Jeez.
at this point, they're getting feedback and comments
Yeah.
from Aqua and other concerned parties, and then I don't have a timetable for when they're gonna finalize, but right now it is scheduled to take effect January of 2024. So it's gotta move along pretty quick, obviously, we're already into April.
okay, well,
Let's guess.
that's a very popular admin exec meeting.
I know.
Caller, identify yourself, please.
Yes, Renee Westerlusk. I'm in a quandary of how this water district's going to even quantify outdoor water use, because I don't know of any household who has separate water lines for their outdoor use and separate lines for their indoor use. Like where I live, everything's attached to one line. Is there?
That is the case for the majority of our customers. There are a couple that have an outdoor meter and an indoor meter, but they are very few. Yeah, we have the same quandary, Renee. That's one of the issues that we're trying to get our arms around. Yeah, don't know.
Okay.
But that is an issue that we've posed to our Aqua, and they are engaging it and trying to help the state understand what they're asking us to do and the difficulty in providing the information they're looking for. Go ahead.
So will the water district hopefully get some answers back from the state how to quantify this? Because I see no way.
Yeah, no, we're scratching our heads as well, and as Don just mentioned, the new rules go into effect in January, this coming January. So there's not a lot of time to come up with solutions or responses to what they propose for us to do. We certainly couldn't afford, for example, to go out and install outside meters on everybody's house so we could monitor indoor and outdoor water use. That wouldn't be, that's I don't want to say it's feasible, but it's an approach, but it would be expensive and very difficult to do. But, and certainly not something we could do quickly. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, keep in mind too that when these states regulations come out, it's going to look at the water districts as a whole. It's going to look at what we report here as a water district. I suppose we're going to report inside use, outside use based on their formulas or whatever, and then we got to meet some baseline requirement from the state. The only way it bleeds down to the customer is in terms of cost for their water. Because the water district can't go to somebody and say, by the way, you use too much outside water, we're going to cut off your water. Or you use too much inside water, we're going to cut off your water. So it applies to the water district as a whole. So every month that we go over whatever is, I hate the word allocated, whatever is deemed the right amount for us over here by the state, every time we go over that, there will be a fine. And I forget what the fine is, but it's thousands of dollars a day. I want to say it's $10,000 a day. So and that's where we're in a quandary here. Until we see these numbers, we don't know how it's going to affect the district and how it's going to affect our users. But at this particular point, these laws don't give the districts any kind of policing authority on their users. It's just a total overall use and any policies and procedures and programs we have in place to help people conserve water. That's it.
So I would add, as far as the outdoor landscaping budget that the district will be given, it's going to be based on the study that was done using aerial photography. They were able to look at, they divided each individual parcel into 3 categories based on what they saw. If it's irrigated or irrigable, they called it, irrigable and irrigated. If it's irrigable and not irrigated, and then non-irrigable and non-irrigated, for example, hard surfaces. So based on that, they've come up with individual budgets for each parcel, and then the cumulative result would be the district's budget. The proposal was, and Aqua was supportive of, because things can change, of taking 20% of the irrigable but not irrigated areas and provide that as a buffer for each water district. There was some pushback on that from the state board, but Aqua's pushing back on that as well. I don't believe that's been resolved, but hopefully they do that, because I do think that needs to be a buffer, because obviously during the course of the year, there's gonna be landscapes that are changed. Some people are gonna take their turf out or remove trees or plant trees, or, so there's gonna be change. So hopefully we get something like that as a buffer, so it's not such a hard budget to reach.
Thanks,
I
Tom.
just have one other question. Can they base any of it based on what the water use is during the winter months, like November, December, January? Because the outdoor water use has to go way, way down those months.
Well, the methodology includes, they look at evapotranspiration and other factors that affect water use. I don't know specifically if you look at the month of January or February, but yeah, as I mentioned, the methodologies they're using are of concern to Aqua. And so Aqua's presenting some counter proposals, which are still being considered, I suppose, by the state board, but nothing has been finalized. Everything's still draft at this point.
Okay.
Well,
All right. Thank you.
stay tuned, and thanks for your interest in this area. If you have any great ideas, throw them our way, but we're trying to look at it all, and we'll do the best we can with what limited information we have, Renee. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, board draft agenda for the regular board meeting next Monday, the 8th of April. You had a chance to review, Ron, and do you have any comments? I'm reviewing in real time myself. We are going to talk about the 30-incher in here. Yeah, it's the 30-inch pipeline.
Yeah, it's under the updates.
All right, good.
There's a few action items, but nothing, I don't think that's too controversial. We will be bringing the latest salary survey for board consideration.
Okay. Are you going to spend any time addressing the public's interest in the DWP water coming into the valley? I think that might be something of interest to those who bother to call in. I mean, just a quick status like you've been providing us.
Yeah, we can do that under general manager's report.
Okay. That would be the only comment I would have. Anything wrong? Okay. Anything from staff? Okay, then. Future agenda items? None? Okay. Awesome. Well, so we'll call the meeting adjourned at, it looks like 3:18. Thanks for your call-ins.